Czechast, a podcast in English about Czech and Moravian society, history, culture and economy.
Hello and welcome to Czechast, Radio Prague International's podcast in English about all things Czech. I'm Vít Pohanka. My guest today is American Holocaust educator and filmmaker Karen Kruger. We met during this year's ŠTETL FEST, a Jewish culture festival which is still underway in Brno, the second Czech city, and we met to talk about her remarkable family story, how she discovered a Jewish past that her mother had kept hidden, and how that discovery eventually brought her back to Brno and South Moravia. I found Karen's story fascinating and inspiring, and so I wanted to share our conversation with you while the festival in Brno is still going on. So, here is my today's guest.
Czechast, a podcast in English about all things Czech. Whether you're an English-speaking expat living in Czechia and Slovakia, or a descendant of the Czechs, Moravians and Slovaks who left for a better life in America, Australia, Britain or Canada so long ago that you don't speak the language of the old country, this podcast in English is for you.
My name is Karen Kruger, and I am here in Alexievich, close to Brno, Ivančice, for the ŠTETL FEST. They're honoring, one of the families they're honoring are the Plačeks, and I'm related to the Plačeks. But today we laid the stumbling stones, the Stolperstein, for my mother, her younger sister, my aunt, and then my two grandparents, Armen and Herta Turkle, outside of their home. And it is unbelievable to be doing it here today and to also have my grandchildren here who helped place the stones. And so even though my family, their lives were cut short, the family still continues, and it's very, very important moving for me to be here with the three generations.
Right. Could you tell me a little bit about kind of the journey of your family? I mean, obviously, part of the family stayed here, but I suppose the kids got outside.
Well, yes, they were went in Kindertransport. My mother was and her younger sister, and their parents could not get out. Armen and Herta, and they were murdered in Nazi concentration camps. And my mom stayed in England. She became a midwife there, and her younger sister was taken to America after the war and finished her schooling there. And eventually my mom came to the U.S. I think she was still waiting for her parents to come and get her, as they promised when they put them on the train. And it took about 7 years for her to accept that they weren't coming. And she was engaged to be married in Cornwall, England, and broke off the engagement because upon realizing they weren't coming and they didn't survive, that her only family alive was her sister in America. And her fiancé did not want to go, and so she went alone.
And then she ended up in America, I suppose, marrying and then having you as a child.
Yes. I'm one of 4 kids. And my sister Tracy is also here with her daughter and granddaughter, so we have another 3 generations marking this very historic moment for us.
I think you mentioned that you live in LA now, but were you born there?
No,
already?
I was born in Michigan. And really grew up there. And then lived mostly in New York City, San Francisco. I was back in New York, kind of bouncing between the two coasts, and now I'm in Los Angeles to be closer to my grandchildren.
And if I'm not mistaken, you are going to present something here, right?
Today, yes.
And what is it?
It is a documentary film. It's called Letters from Brno, and it is the story of how I discovered that my mother was Jewish. By the way, my mother and her sister both hid their pasts. And so I didn't find out she was Jewish till a relative told me when I was in university. And I describe it as a switch went off of an insatiable curiosity to put this family puzzle, this history together, because what I could see is she was so upset when I found out that she was Jewish, and she was very angry that the relative told me because she was still hiding it. I think, as a Kindertransport who had been really traumatized by that whole experience.
By the way, I don't want to throw names around, but when I interviewed Madeleine Albright, her story was very similar in the sense that she didn't know she was Jewish until much later in her life, basically.
Yeah, and it was because people ask me. By the way, the documentary film that we're showing this afternoon, it's on it's on PBS, nationwide in the U.S. Not anywhere else yet. I would love to get it on public television, here in the Czech Republic. It just hasn't happened. But we also recently completed a short film called Daisy and Erica, and it's what happened to the girls after the war. The most common question that we get when we screen the film, and we've shown it all over the world, is, but what happened to the girls? And so the director started this short film 3 years ago and just finished it recently. And so the premiere of it is going to be this afternoon after Letters from Brno.
Right. Just one last thing so that I don't get it wrong. So you are presenting the Letters from Brno film today.
Yes,
and it's based on the letters that your grandparents wrote to their children when they were still in Britain?
It was letters that they wrote about the children to... It's a little complicated. My grandmother is Herta. Her younger sister, Marianne, got out during Nazi-occupied Czechoslovakia. Miraculously got out, made it to the U.S. They were able to correspond with Marianne, Armin, my grandfather, and Herta. And Marianne kept everything, all these letters. Just for you to know, I've had just a fraction of this archive looked at by curators at the Jewish Museum of Prague, Yad Vashem, and the U.S. Holocaust Museum, and they all said the same thing. They've never seen anything like this. And it's highly, highly unusual, and they're all horrified that I take it into schools. I take originals into schools. It's protected. And they all want the collection, but I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do with it. And
so how many letters are we talking about?
Oh my God, there's hundreds.
Hundreds. And they were able to send it via, I don't know, Red Cross? Or how were they?
It's such a mystery.
It's about technicalities, I wonder.
I know they got. I'm not exactly sure. Only recently, in 2024, we discovered, someone contacted me out of the blue, a young man from France, and his grandfather, who didn't speak, write anything, with English, had inherited his aunt's estate 10 years ago. And in the paperwork was a file that said Turkle Enfant. And they had 7 letters from my grandfather and photographs of my mother and her younger sister that I've never seen before. So they contacted me in November of 2024 and said, are you related? And it was the grandson who found me through the internet. And so we got the letters, I got them translated, and the film had already been accepted to PBS, but we were editing it. We had to cut it anyway. And I called the editor and said, I just got new letters from Armin and I have to change the opening of the film. And, he said, Karen, we're cutting the film. We're not liking it. And I said, when you hear what my grandfather wrote 4 days after Kristallnacht, you'll understand. And he did. And we changed it. So it's a different opening. And then the new film today, Daisy and Erica, is going to be premiered here for the first time.
For the first time. So now we are speaking here in Ivančice, Ivančice u Brna, I should say. And in a way, this is a place where so much tragedy happened, to your ancestors. What sort of feeling did you have when you first came, I suppose, after 1989 sometime?
Right. Actually, the first time was 2005. And being here, by the way, my mom came on that trip last minute. She never returned to the Czech Republic after she left when she was 10 years old. And never. And she wasn't going to come. We were invited because we're descendants, and that was her cousin, George Plachek. We were invited to come to this, and I came with my daughter Erica and my brother Scott. And at the last minute, my mom said she wanted to come, so she came. And it was amazing to see her house where she grew up, and then and to see the factory where Armin worked here. The villa was in such, disrepair. Actually, no, that's not true. That was the next time I came a few years later. No, because the four owners who took over during communism never let any descendants behind the gates. This was the first time they let any Plachek descendants visit. And to go in here, they turned it into offices, and one of the owners was describing very graphically, what had happened with Fritz Plachek and they called it a suicide. The family thinks that he was murdered by Gestapo, but it was so upsetting to Fritz's son, that he came running out and was in tears. And what upset me, hearing that it was very disturbing. But when we were in Brno and someone did a tour of the Placheks and all the places the family lived, and I know my grandfather owned several of these homes that were all stolen. And the person, giving the tour would just, oh yes, and the Placheks own this place, and then walked down the street, the Placheks own this place and this place, and I felt myself getting so angry, and I didn't know why, and it took me a few days to really process it, and I realized it wasn't just that these things were all stolen, these owners were all murdered, but it was that no one said, not once, we're so sorry about what happened to your family, not once. And that's what really bothered me. And it's good for me telling you this right now because I'm going to be asked that question. They already gave me a list of all these questions we're going to be talking about on Sunday. And so I've been formulating, my response. And it was that not one person said, it acknowledged, the horrible tragedies that happened. It was almost like, you're on tour in Paris and hearing about historical buildings and the families that live there with a detachment and a lack of empathy, I think, that was really painful for me. But it also, I think it took me leaving and getting back to the U.S. before I could figure out why I got so emotional about it. It's complex.
But I'm wondering, here we are, 2026, there's ŠTETL FEST in Brno. Do you feel a little better about, the whole thing and the whole tragedy that happened?
I do feel better, and part of it is I was here at the ŠTETL FEST in 2023 to show letters from Brno. And I could not believe, I didn't know what the ŠTETL FEST was. I could not believe the reception I had, how warmly I was welcomed, how kindly I was treated. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, they see me as representing a family that was loved. The Placheks were, Rabbi Baruch Plachek was very much loved in the Jewish community. And I think a lot of people, they still feel that way, even though they didn't know. Of course, I never met him, but this family's standing in the Jewish community, I think, was such that I felt like I was embraced by strangers, and it was very unexpected. And I've been coming back. I'm trying to get Czech citizenship. I want to move here.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah. And I've done a ton of work in schools in Brno. I have a Holocaust curriculum that's based on the film and this massive archive that I have of all these letters, which is why the film is Letters from Brno. And so I have been going to schools, like I said, really all over the world. But I feel like the students here in Brno and the teachers here welcome me in a way that I'm not even welcomed in schools in the U.S. Even schools, I used to be a school administrator, schools that I've worked with, I'm more welcomed here and embraced here. And I really feel that difference. And so, yes, my feelings have changed completely.
We've been living through a time of a new wave of anti-Semitism because of what's going on in Gaza. Do you kind of feel that? Do you experience that? Is that something that bothers you?
Yes, absolutely. And since October 7th, I've been canceled at schools in England and in the U.S., especially when those campus protests were happening. And they said we can't bring any Holocaust content onto campus. And then since Trump's been elected, and I'm fine getting political, by the way, can't stand the man and what he's doing. He's ruining not only our country, but the world. But I feel like Brno is home for me. I do. I do. I'm so happy when I'm here, especially when I'm doing work in schools and everything. But we have so many friends here now, and I am so embraced by the Jewish community, and I feel like so many teachers. It's almost like when I used to, when I was a teacher, a classroom teacher in the States, and kids would come up to me, they had had me years before that I wouldn't necessarily recognize. I feel like teachers here come up to and recognize me, and I don't necessarily remember them, but they'll say, "You were at our school. We saw your film. You brought the archive." The students still talk about it, and that happens more here, than it does in LA, because I can't get into schools in LA, frankly, especially now where people are so hesitant, about teaching the Holocaust.
As you mentioned, you are trying to become a Czech citizen, right? How do you go about it? And what are you going to do? Are you going to settle in Brno or what?
Yes, yeah. But the process is complicated. It's a little bit on the Czech side, but honestly, it's getting all the paperwork. That stupid Doge, they fired so many people in government that we're processing a lot of these forms that you have to have. And so the wait time to even get them can be 7 to 12 months for me to even get a form. For example, my father's my mother's naturalization papers, and I can't do anything until I have those. And so I've been working on it for 2 years, and I still need those papers, but pretty much everything else is in place. And I have people who want to advocate for me too, if I get rejected, but I don't think I will. Some people have said jokingly here, just show them your film. They cannot deny that you were a descendant going back like 5 or 6 generations here in Brno. So that's not how it works.
So you have to deal with the Consul General, I suppose, in LA. Consul General?
And there's a new one. I knew the Consul General in LA, and he was going to help, and then he just got replaced, and now they don't even let people come in person until you have all your forms. They said, don't even bother. And you can't call and reach a voice. And
I see. Everything is...
You're only open 3 half days a week, from 9 to 12, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's it.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I know.
No, I'm sorry about that.
Anyway, but I'm going to do it.
You're going to do it, so that's the plan. And
yes.
Do you already have a place where you want to stay in Brno?
No, I love so many parts of it. No, wouldn't it be funny if I could end up getting an apartment in what was my mother's home? But this is a little outside, and I don't necessarily, after LA, want to have another car. Brno is such a walkable city, and public transportation is fabulous. So, yeah.
Is there something that I didn't ask about that you feel you would like to say that is important on this occasion or generally?
I'm very emotional anyway, so I don't want to start crying because I know watching the film here, especially the new film here, just steps away from my mom's home is going to be extremely emotional. But this, I almost feel like it's come full circle, from when I was first trying to figure out who are these Placzek people and why was she so desperately trying to hide her past, and and then now to be placing the stones in front of her home and having the film and having the curriculum and sharing my grandparents' voices. That's really what the film's about. Their letters that they wrote after they put the girls on the train up until they were sent to the first camp. And they're incredibly moving. And so I'm just really, really thankful to be here and to be doing this momentous act at their former home with my son and my grandchildren and other family members.
How many of you are here actually altogether? I mean, I saw your group. I just wonder, is it 20, 25? Or
We got
an idea?
My immediate family, let's see, how many do you... There are also Placzeks. We now call each other cousin. Mm-hmm. We were at dinner last night and there were 30 people, but then there's even more that didn't come.
Right.
So the group's pretty big. It's probably maybe around 4, because there are a few I haven't met. For the most part, I know more of everyone than the individuals do, especially the people coming for the first time. So I've been introducing.
That was Karen Kruger, American Holocaust educator. This has been something of a Czechast special, as ŠTETL FEST is still taking place in Brno this week. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Vít Pohanka. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay curious. And as we say in Czech, until next time, naslyšenou.
Czechast, a podcast in English about all things Czech. Whether you're an English-speaking expat living in Czechia and Slovakia, or a descendant of the Czechs, Moravians and Slovaks who left for a better life in America, Australia, Britain or Canada so long ago that you don't speak the language of the old country, this podcast in English is for you.